Hello, my name is Jim Bratton. We all use hand and power tools on the job. In fact, tools are such a common part of our lives that we often forget that they can pose hazards. Unfortunately, it sometimes takes a serious incident to remind us that tools, no matter how simple they are, can cause severe and even fatal injuries. Whenever we use hand and power tools, we are exposed to the dangers of falling, flying, abrasive and splashing objects, as well as to harmful dust, fumes, mists, vapors, or gases. Types of injuries include cuts, abrasions, punctures, sprains, fractures, bruises, electrical shock, amputations, and in extreme cases, death. These injuries, while potentially devastating, can be prevented. Today we're going to introduce you to the hazards associated with different types of tools and steps you can take to help control or avoid those hazards. By taking appropriate precautions, you can reduce the risk of accidents to yourself and your co-workers. Hand tools are tools that are powered manually. They include anything from axes to wrenches. The greatest hazards posed by hand tools result from misuse and improper maintenance. For example, if a wooden handle on a hammer or an axe is loose, splintered, or cracked, the head of the tool may fly off and strike the user or another employee. If an impact tool, such as a chisel or a wedge, has a mushroomed head, the head could shatter on impact, sending sharp fragments flying toward the user or someone working nearby. It's easy to take hand tools for granted because they're pretty simple implements. However, to prevent accidents, you have to use hand tools safely. First of all, always use the right tool for the job. For example, do not use a wrench as a hammer, pliers as a wrench, a knife as a saw, or a screwdriver as a chisel. Make sure you have the correct size tool for the job task you are performing, such as a correct screwdriver, pliers, wrench, or scissors. Always inspect tools before use. For instance, check the head fastening on hammers. Make sure wood handles of tools are not splintered. And keep impact tools such as drift pins, wedges, and chisels free of mushroomed heads. Remove defective equipment from service and mark as damaged to alert other workers. Always wear appropriate personal protective equipment when using hand and power tools. Safety glasses and gloves can help protect against hazards associated with hand tools. Remember that in some instances, you may have to add PPE, such as face shields, when performing certain operations. Keep cutting tools sharp. Dull tools can cause more hazards than sharp ones. When using saw blades, knives, or other sharp objects, cut away from yourself. Direct the tools away from the aisle areas and away from other employees working nearby. When working around flammable substances, such as flammable gases, highly volatile liquids, or other explosive materials, use spark-resistant tools. Iron or steel hand tools may produce sparks that could be an ignition source. Finally, store tools in a safe place. Many accidents have been caused by tools falling from overhead or by sharp tools carried in pockets or left in toolboxes with the cutting edges exposed. Put the tool away in the proper place after each use and protect or enclose sharp edges or blades to prevent contact. Now let's talk about power tools. Portable power tools are typically grouped according to their power source: electric, pneumatic, liquid fuel, hydraulic, powder actuated, and battery operated. When used improperly, power tools can cause injuries such as electrical shock, burns, cuts, punctures, sprains, strains, fractures, bruises, amputations, and even death. Safe use of power tools, no matter what the power source is, requires some general precautions. Use these safe work practices when using any power tools. Use the right tool for the job. For example, don't force a small tool or attachment to do the job of a heavy-duty tool. This can cause the tool to strain and kick back or break, which may result in injury. Inspect tools for defects or damage before each use. If a tool is damaged or defective, take it out of service and tag it. Do not use. Never use damaged tools. Make sure that you notify your supervisor as well, so that a repair or replacement can be made. Make sure machine guards are in place, properly adjusted, and in working order. Machine guards protect the user from the moving parts of power tools. Never remove a guard when a tool is being used. Verify that safety switches are set and working properly. These include a constant pressure switch or control that shuts off power when pressure is released, a positive on-off switch, or a lock-on control switch. Wear proper apparel for the task. Remove loose clothing or jewelry that may become caught in moving parts. Also, wear appropriate personal protective equipment, safety goggles and/or glasses, and sometimes a face shield as required if there is risk of flying metal particles, dust, shavings, screws, or nails. Safety shoes to protect your feet from dropped tools and parts. Respirators to protect lungs when required. Gloves to protect hands from cuts and punctures, as long as there is no risk of catching them in moving parts or losing control of the tool. And hearing protection to avoid damage from excessive workplace noise or sound. When using power tools, be careful to avoid accidental startup. Do not hold fingers on the switch button while carrying a plugged-in tool. Keep cords and hoses away from heat, oil, and sharp edges. Suspend cords and hoses over aisles where they won't pose tripping hazards. When laying a cord across the floor, tape the cord to the floor or protect it with wooden strips or special raceways. Disconnect cords by grabbing the plug itself and pulling it from the outlet. Avoid yanking the cord to disconnect it from the receptacle. Also, avoid carrying a tool by the cord or hose. When working with power tools, secure work with clamps or a vise, freeing both hands to operate the tool. Practice the principles of ergonomics to lessen the risk of body strain and potential for soft tissue injury. For example, make sure tools are well balanced and fit the hand comfortably. Hold tools in a neutral position. Avoid using tools that are so heavy that they strain the arm and shoulders. Keep good footing and maintain good balance. Avoid overreaching or other movements that place your hands, wrist, or body in awkward positions. And finally, disconnect tools when not using them, such as before servicing and cleaning, and when changing accessories such as blades, bits, and cutters. Store in a safe, dry place when not in use. It's also important to note that you should review the manufacturer's requirements for the proper use and handling of all power tools. Power tools make our life easier, but misuse can turn a productive job into a tragic event with devastating consequences. Take electrical tools, for example. Electrical shock, which can lead to injuries such as heart failure and burns, is one of the major hazards associated with electrical power tools. Under certain conditions, even a small amount of electric current can result in fibrillation of the heart and ultimately death. An electric shock can also cause the user to fall off a ladder or other elevated work surface and receive injury due to the fall. Electrical tools include saws, grinders, drills, and mixers. Many of us use these tools every day in our jobs, but we don't always use them safely. To help ensure safety, take these precautions whenever you use an electrical tool. Make sure tools have a 3-wire cord with a ground, are plugged into a grounded receptacle, or are double insulated to protect from shock. Also, be sure that tools are protected by ground fault circuit interrupters or an assured equipment grounding conductor program. This is a requirement in the construction industry. Before use, inspect electrical cords and plugs for damage. Promptly disconnect and replace cracked, frayed, or broken electrical cords. Remember that only qualified personnel can make repairs to cords and most tools. Use extension cords with sufficient amperage or wattage rating. Overloaded extension cords may cause fires. Operate electric tools within their design limitations. Follow manufacturer's instructions for proper use. Keep work areas well lit when operating electrical tools. Make sure you have sufficient access and working space to permit ready and safe operations and maintenance. Avoid using electrical tools in damp or wet locations unless they are approved for that purpose. Electricity and water can be a dangerous and potentially fatal combination. Pneumatic tools are powered by compressed air and include buffers, nail guns, chippers, drills, hammers, and sanders. These tools are very powerful and can be extremely dangerous when not used correctly. Hazards include getting hit by one of the tool's attachments or a fastener the worker is using with the tool. There is also the risk of ignition of explosive atmospheres and the danger posed by flying particles. When using pneumatic tools, like all tools, it's important to follow manufacturer's instructions. Do not operate pneumatic tools or other power tools unless you have been trained to operate the tools safely. And when you do use pneumatic tools, use them with extreme caution. Make sure the tool is fastened securely to the air hose to prevent it from becoming disconnected and striking someone. Use a positive locking device to attach the air hose to the tool as added protection. Check to ensure that a safety clip or retainer is installed to prevent attachments such as chisels on a chipping hammer from being ejected during tool operation. Set up screens to protect nearby workers from being struck by flying fragments around chippers, riveting guns, staplers, or air guns. Handle tools carefully. For instance, never point compressed air guns toward anyone or dead end them against themselves or anyone else. Fuel-powered tools are usually operated with gasoline. These tools include chainsaws, deck saws, and certain compactors. Some of the most serious hazards of fuel-operated tools come from fuel vapors that can burn or explode, or equipment that gives off dangerous exhaust emissions, such as carbon monoxide. When you're using fuel-operated tools, remember you are playing with fire. Follow these guidelines to help prevent an accident that could be devastating to your workplace. Handle, transport, and store gas or fuel only in approved flammable liquid containers and according to proper procedures for flammable liquids. Before refilling a fuel-powered tool tank, shut down the engine and allow it to cool to prevent accidental ignition or hazardous vapors. Fuel only in a well-ventilated area, and make sure fire extinguishers are available in the area in the event of a fire or explosion. In addition to the flammability hazard, it's also very important to provide protection against carbon monoxide buildup in the air around your work area. Make sure that carburetors are properly adjusted for clean and efficient use of the fuel, and be sure to provide adequate ventilation. In many cases, combustion-powered equipment used indoors may also require exhaust scrubbers to help remove contaminants from the exhaust stream. You can't see or smell carbon monoxide, so be sure that the air is being tested when equipment is run indoors. Powder-actuated tools add speed to attachment jobs, but if used incorrectly, they can cause serious injury to the user or other workers in the area. Powder-actuated tools operate like a loaded gun. In fact, they are so dangerous that they must be operated only by specially trained employees. Use powder-actuated tools only if you're qualified to do so, and follow these safety guidelines. Post a sign to alert others when a powder-actuated tool is in use. Before using, inspect the tool thoroughly. and test it according to manufacturer's requirements to ensure that the safety device and the tool itself are working correctly. Take damaged equipment out of service and report it to your supervisor immediately. Select a power level, high or low velocity, that is appropriate for the tool and necessary to do the work without excessive force. Avoid using the tool in a flammable atmosphere. The combination could cause an explosion. Keep powder-actuated tools unloaded until ready to use. Avoid carrying loaded tools from job to job. And keep tools pointed in a safe direction. Never point powder-actuated tools at anyone. Remember, powder-actuated tools are like loaded guns and must be treated with the same respect and safety precautions as guns. Do not leave a powder-actuated tool unattended, especially where it could be available to unauthorized persons. Store each powder-actuated tool in its own locked container when not in use. Clean, lubricate, and reassemble the tool according to manufacturer's directions. Hard use on a job site can damage components quickly, causing jams and misfires, both of which can be extremely dangerous. And last but not least, be sure to dispose of unused loads in an appropriate manner. When used correctly, hydraulic power is one of the safest methods of applying force to your work. However, this power can be very dangerous when not used properly. Follow simple, common sense safety tips to ensure safe operation of hydraulic powered tools. Use only an approved fire-resistant fluid that will retain its operating characteristics at the most extreme temperature to which it will be exposed. The exception to fire-resistant fluid includes all hydraulic fluids used for the insulated sections of derrick trucks, aerial lifts, and hydraulic tools that are used on or around energized lines. This hydraulic fluid must be of the insulating type. Do not exceed the manufacturer's recommended safe operating pressure for hoses, valves, pipes, filters, and other fittings. Keep in mind that hydraulic-powered tools can produce an extreme amount of pressure. Make sure the setup is secure and stable. Never check for leaks by running your hand over hoses or fittings. Use a rag or paper towel to indicate drip locations. High-pressure leaks can cut right through your skin and muscle. Check surfaces to ensure that they are free of any oil, which may cause a tool to slip and prevent a hazard to you or to others. Make sure jacks, including lever and ratchet jacks, screw jacks, and hydraulic jacks, have a stop indicator. Take care not to exceed the stop limit. Also, avoid exceeding the manufacturer's load limit. The load limit must be permanently marked in a prominent place on the jack. Maintain jacks properly to ensure safety. Keep jacks lubricated and inspect on a regular basis. Portable battery-operated tools are convenient to use and are considered safer, particularly when you have to work in damp or wet environments. However, like all tools, battery-operated tools pose unique hazards of their own. The primary hazards are the risk of fire or explosion and contact with caustic battery fluids. Take advantage of cordless battery-operated tools, but remember, you must use these tools properly or you risk injury to yourself and others. Keep in mind that battery-operated tools are always in an operative condition. Make sure the switch is in the locked or off position before inserting a battery pack, making any adjustments, changing accessories, or storing the tool. Avoid carrying tools with your finger on the switch or inserting the battery pack in a tool with the switch on. This is an invitation to trouble. Use a battery-operated tool only with a specifically designed battery pack. Use of other batteries may create risk of fire. Avoid using battery-operated tools in a flammable or explosive atmosphere. Electrical equipment, including battery-operated equipment, could ignite vapor. Remove the battery from the tool before servicing and when changing the accessories. When the battery pack is not in use, keep it away from other metal objects like paper clips, coins, keys, nails, screws, or other small metal objects that can make a connection from one terminal to another. Shorting the battery terminals could cause sparks, burns, or a fire. Avoid putting batteries into a fire or exposing them to high heat. They may explode. Exercise caution when changing batteries. For battery-operated tools with integral batteries or a separate battery pack, recharge only with the specified charger for that battery. A charger that may be suitable for one type of battery may create a risk of fire when used with another. During charging, ensure that there is adequate ventilation. Avoid charging batteries in damp or wet environments, and avoid exposing chargers to rain or snow. Watch for battery leakage. Leakage may occur during extreme usage or temperature conditions. Avoid contact with skin and eyes. The battery liquid is caustic and could cause chemical burns to tissues. The tools we use help us work faster and more efficiently. Without them, we would be a lot less productive. But to prevent accidents, it's important that we use these tools properly. Remember, when using tools, no matter how simple or complex, follow these basic work practices. Maintain tools regularly to keep them in good condition. Inspect each tool for damage before use. Do not use a defective tool. Only qualified personnel should repair tools. Use the right tool for the job. Operate tools according to manufacturer's instructions. Store all tools properly and safely. And finally, provide and use properly appropriate personal protective equipment. When using hand and power tools, put a priority on safety. Not only will you work more productively and efficiently, you will also help prevent injuries for your own well-being and for the well-being of your coworkers. Make safety a part of your job today and every day.